People say revenge is a dish best served cold. I prefer mine with a side of protein shake and a generous helping of public humiliation. My name is Jack Morrison, and I used to believe in happy marriages, faithful wives, and the basic decency of people who spot you at the gym. That was before I learned that trust is like expensive gym equipment, overpriced and eventually broken by someone who doesn't respect what it cost you. I'm 38, work in building security technology, and until 3 months ago, I thought I had it all figured out. Nice house in suburban Boston, a wife who looked like she stepped out of a fitness magazine, and a 14-year-old son who still thought his old man was pretty cool. The American dream, wrapped up in a mortgage and a minivan. My wife Nadia is 35, blonde, fit as a marathon runner, and has more Instagram followers than some small-town newspapers have readers. She works in social media marketing, which means she gets paid to make other people's lives look perfect online. The irony wasn't lost on me, even then. "Jack, can you take Jake to soccer practice?" Nadia called from upstairs, her voice carrying that particular tone wives use when they're asking you to do something they've already decided you're going to do. "I have a training session with Eric." Eric, the name that would soon become my least favorite sound in the English language. Eric Daniels, personal trainer at Premium Fitness, married to a woman named Monica, who had the good sense to be suspicious of her husband's after-hours sessions. "Sure thing," I called back, not looking up from my laptop where I was reviewing security camera installations for a new office complex. "What time will you be home?" "Late. We're working on my core strength." I should have paid more attention to that answer. Should have noticed the way she said core strength, like it was some kind of inside joke. Should have wondered why core strength required sessions that lasted until 10 at night. But I was busy, distracted, and stupidly trusting. My son Jake Jr. appeared in the doorway, soccer cleats in hand, and that awkward teenage grin on his face. The kid had my dark hair and his mother's green eyes, and at 14, he was already showing signs of the sharp intelligence that ran in my family. "Dad, can we stop for burgers after practice?" he asked. Mom's always on about clean eating, but a guy needs real food sometimes. "Absolutely," I said, shutting the laptop. "Your secret's safe with me." We drove to the soccer field in comfortable silence, the radio playing some classic rock station that Jake pretended to hate but secretly enjoyed. It was one of those perfect autumn evenings in Massachusetts, the kind that makes you believe everything in your world is exactly as it should be. "Dad," Jake said as we pulled into the parking lot, "is everything okay with you and Mom?" The question hit me like a surprise tackle. "What do you mean, buddy?" "I don't know. She's always at the gym now, and when she's home, she's always on her phone. You guys don't really talk anymore." Before we deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Smart kid? Too smart, maybe? I ruffled his hair and gave him what I hoped was a reassuring smile. "Your mom's just focused on her fitness goals right now. You know how she gets about projects." Jake nodded, but I could see the doubt in his eyes. Kids notice everything, even when we think we're hiding it well. He grabbed his gear and jogged toward the field, leaving me alone with thoughts I'd been trying to avoid for weeks. The truth was, Jake was right. Nadia had become a stranger in our own house. She left early for the gym, came home late, and spent most of her time between scrolling through social media or texting with people I never met. When I tried to start conversations, I got one-word answers and distracted nods. "She's just busy," I told myself, the same lie I'd been repeating for months. Marriage goes through phases. After soccer practice, Jake and I hit our favorite burger joint, a place called Mickey's that had been serving the same greasy, perfect burgers since the 1960s. We sat in a red vinyl booth, and I watched my son demolish a cheeseburger with the efficiency of a competitive eater. "This is way better than Mom's quinoa salads," he said through a mouthful of fries. "Don't let her hear you say that," I warned, but I was smiling. These moments with Jake were becoming more precious to me, maybe because everything else in my life felt like it was shifting beneath my feet. When we got home, Nadia's car wasn't in the driveway. I checked my phone, no messages. Jake went upstairs to tackle homework, and I found myself standing in our kitchen, looking around at the life we'd built together. Wedding photos on the refrigerator, family vacation magnets from trips to Cape Cod and Disney World, Jake's artwork from elementary school still proudly displayed on the bulletin board. It all looked normal, perfect even. But something was wrong, had been wrong for a while, and I was finally ready to admit it. I grabbed a drink and settled into my home office, intending to finish some work, but my mind kept wandering. Nadia's gym sessions had become longer and more frequent. She'd started using terms I didn't recognize, talking about functional training and dynamic stretching. With the enthusiasm of someone who'd found religion, And then there was her phone. Always face down now, always password protected, always buzzing with messages she'd read with a little smile before quickly typing back responses. The front door opened around 10:30, and I heard Nadia's keys hit the bowl in the entryway. She appeared in my office doorway, still in her workout clothes, hair pulled back in a ponytail that somehow managed to look perfect despite a supposedly intense training session. "How was practice?" she asked, but she was already looking at her phone again. "Good. Jake scored 2 goals in scrimmage." I waited to see if she'd ask for details, show any real interest in our son's evening. She didn't. "That's nice," she said, thumbs moving across her phone screen. "I'm going to shower." She was halfway up the stairs before I called after her. "How was your training session?" "Productive," she called back. "Eric really knows how to push me to my limits." The way she said his name, with a little extra warmth, a hint of something that definitely wasn't appropriate for discussing your fitness trainer with your husband, made something cold settle in my stomach. I tried to focus on work, but the words on my screen blurred together. Instead, I found myself thinking about the changes in Nadia, the distance that had grown between us, the way she talked about Eric like he was some kind of fitness guru instead of just another guy who worked at a gym. My phone buzzed with a text from my best friend Pete. "Beer tomorrow? You sound like you need it." I hadn't realized I'd been that obvious about my mood, but Pete had known me since college. He could probably read my stress levels through text messages. "Definitely," I texted back. "Got some things to figure out." Upstairs, I could hear the shower running and Nadia humming some song I didn't recognize. She used to hum songs we'd heard together, music from our dating years, or tunes Jake liked. Now even her humming felt foreign. I closed my laptop and headed upstairs, telling myself I was overthinking everything. Marriage counselors probably had a term for what I was doing, projecting insecurity, creating problems where none existed, looking for trouble because work stress was making me paranoid. But as I brushed my teeth, I caught sight of Nadia's phone on the bathroom counter. The screen lit up with a notification, and even though I told myself not to look, my eyes went to the message preview automatically. "Thanks for tonight. You're getting so much stronger. Can't wait for tomorrow's session. E." The message disappeared after a few seconds, but those words burned themselves into my brain. The casual intimacy of it, the way Eric had shortened to just E, like they were teenagers passing notes in class. I stared at myself in the bathroom mirror, toothbrush hanging from my mouth like some kind of domestic scarecrow. 48 hours ago, I'd been a happily married man with normal problems, mortgage payments, work deadlines, wondering if Jake needed a tutor for algebra. Now I was standing in my own bathroom, suspicious of my wife's text messages and feeling like a stranger in my own life. The shower stopped, and I quickly finished brushing my teeth. When Nadia emerged from the bathroom in her robe, I was already in bed, pretending to read a book about network security protocols. "Good book?" she asked, settling on her side of the bed. "Riveting," I said, not looking up. "All about protecting systems from unauthorized access." If she caught the irony in that statement, she didn't show it. She was already reaching for her phone, settling in for what had become her nightly routine of scrolling through social media and responding to messages from people I never met. I watched her from the corner of my eye, noting the way her expression changed as she read certain messages. Little smiles, raised eyebrows, the occasional soft laugh that she never bothered to explain. "Nadia," I said, closing my book. "Are we okay?" She looked up from her phone, and for just a moment, I saw something flicker across her face. Guilt, maybe, or annoyance at being interrupted. "Of course we're okay," she said. "Why would you ask that?" "I don't know. We don't really talk anymore. You're always at the gym, or on your phone. I feel like we're becoming roommates instead of husband and wife." She set her phone down, face down, naturally, and turned to face me. "Jack, I'm just focused on getting healthy right now. This is important to me. I thought you'd be supportive." "I am supportive," I said. "I just miss spending time with you. When was the last time we had dinner together? Just the 3 of us, no phones, no distractions. We have dinner together all the time. We eat at the same table. That's not the same thing." She sighed, the kind of exaggerated sigh that suggested I was being unreasonable. "I don't want to fight about this, Jack. I'm tired." "I don't want to fight either. I just want to understand what's happening with us." But she was already turning away, reaching for her phone again. "Nothing's happening. You're overthinking things." Maybe I was. Maybe the stress of work and the normal evolution of a 15-year marriage was making me paranoid. Maybe Eric was just a really enthusiastic personal trainer, and Nadia was just going through a fitness phase that would pass like all her other phases had passed. But as I lay there in the dark, listening to my wife tap out messages to people whose names I didn't know, I couldn't shake the feeling that my perfect life was about to become very imperfect indeed. The next morning started like every other morning in the Morrison household, except now I was paying attention to details I'd been ignoring for months. Nadia was up before her alarm, already dressed in designer workout clothes that probably cost more than most people's monthly gym membership. She moved around our bedroom with the efficiency of someone who had places to be and people to see. "Early session today?" I asked, watching her pack her gym bag with the same care most people reserve for international travel. "Eric wants to get started before the gym gets crowded," she said without looking at me. "We're working on some advanced techniques." Advanced techniques? Right. I filed that phrase away next to core strength and dynamic stretching in my growing collection of fitness euphemisms. Jake wandered into the kitchen as I was making coffee, his hair sticking up in 17 different directions and his school clothes wrinkled from being slept in. At 14, he'd mastered the art of looking like he'd been raised by wolves while still maintaining decent grades and a generally pleasant personality. "Where's Mom?" he asked, grabbing a piece of toast and somehow managing to get peanut butter on his cheek before he'd taken a single bite. "Gym," I said, which had become the standard answer to that question. "She's always at the gym now," Jake observed, echoing my own thoughts. "Is she training for the Olympics or something?" "Something like that," I muttered, pouring coffee into my travel mug. After dropping Jake at school, I drove to my office with my mind churning through the previous night's conversation. Nadia's dismissive attitude, the way she'd turned away from me, the casual mention of Eric's name like he was some kind of fitness prophet who deserved reverence. My company, SecureTech Solutions, specialized in installing and maintaining security systems for office buildings, retail stores, and residential complexes. I'd built the business from nothing over the past 8 years, and it had grown into something I was genuinely proud of. We weren't the biggest security company in Boston, but we were reliable, thorough, and honest, qualities that seem to be in short supply these days. Pete Rodriguez was waiting in my office when I arrived, feet up on my desk and a cup of coffee from the good place down the street in his hands. Pete had been my business partner since the beginning, and before that, he'd been my roommate in college and the best man at my wedding. If anyone was qualified to tell me I was losing my mind, it was Pete. "You look terrible," he said by way of greeting, like someone who's been lying awake all night thinking about things he doesn't want to think about. "Good morning to you too," I said, settling into my chair. "And get your feet off my desk." Pete swung his feet down but didn't lose the concerned expression. "Talk to me, Jack. What's going on?" I filled him in on everything, Nadia's increasing absences, the mysterious text messages, the way she talked about Eric like he was some kind of fitness messiah. Pete listened without interrupting, occasionally nodding or making small sounds of understanding. "So, let me get this straight," Pete said when I finished. "Your wife is spending more time at the gym than some people spend at their actual jobs, she's texting with her trainer at all hours, and she's become emotionally distant from you and Jake." "When you put it like that, it sounds pretty obvious," I admitted. "It sounds like textbook emotional affair territory," Pete said bluntly. "Maybe physical too, but definitely emotional. Hearing someone else say it out loud made it real in a way that my own suspicions hadn't. Maybe I'm just being paranoid." "Maybe," Pete agreed. "Or maybe your gut is trying to tell you something your brain doesn't want to hear. What do you know about this Eric guy?" "Not much. Mid-30s, works at Premium Fitness, married to someone named Monica. Nadia talks about him like he's some kind of revolutionary fitness expert, but from what I can tell, he's just another trainer at a chain gym." Pete pulled out his phone and started typing. "Eric Daniels, Premium Fitness?" "Probably. How did you—" "Instagram," Pete said, showing me his screen. "Your wife tags him in half her posts. Look at this." I took the phone and scrolled through what appeared to be Eric's public Instagram account. Professional photos of him demonstrating various exercises, motivational quotes overlaid on pictures of him looking intensely focused, and dozens of comments from women praising his technique and dedication. "He's got quite the following," I observed, noting the number of female followers who seemed particularly enthusiastic about his content. "Keep scrolling," Pete said. A few posts down, I found what Pete wanted me to see, a photo of Eric with his arm around a woman who was definitely not Nadia. The caption read, "Date night with my beautiful wife, Monica. Lucky man." Monica was attractive in a completely different way from Nadia. Darker hair, more curves, and an expression that suggested she didn't suffer fools gladly. She looked like someone who would have very little patience for a husband who spent his evenings giving advanced technique sessions to married women. "Interesting," I said, handing the phone back. "Very interesting. Want to know what I think?" "I'm afraid to ask." "I think you should meet Monica." The idea was so simple and so terrifying that I almost laughed. What am I supposed to do, walk up to her and say, "Hi, I think our spouses are having an affair"? Not exactly, Pete said. But maybe you could find a way to have a casual conversation. Feel her out, see if she's noticed anything strange about her husband's work schedule. I spent the rest of the morning trying to focus on work, but Pete's suggestion kept bouncing around in my head. The logical part of my brain insisted I was overreacting, that I should talk to Nadia directly instead of investigating her like she was a security threat. But the part of my brain that had kept me successful in the security business, the part that noticed patterns and trusted instincts, was telling me to gather information before making any moves. Around noon, I made a decision that felt both completely reasonable and utterly insane. I drove to Premium Fitness. The gym was one of those aggressively modern places with floor-to-ceiling windows, motivational slogans painted on the walls, and enough chrome and mirrors to outfit a spaceship. The membership fees were probably twice what most people paid, but it attracted the kind of clientele who viewed fitness as a lifestyle rather than just a way to stay healthy. I walked in like I belonged there, wearing my most confident expression and a polo shirt that I hoped made me look like someone who might actually use a gym membership. The front desk was staffed by a young woman with perfect teeth and the kind of enthusiasm that suggested she either genuinely loved her job or was heavily caffeinated. "Welcome to Premium Fitness," she said with a smile that could have powered the building. "Are you here for a tour?" "Actually, I'm thinking about joining," I said, which wasn't entirely a lie. "I've heard great things about your personal trainers. Specifically, I've heard Eric Daniels is excellent." "Oh, Eric's amazing," she gushed. "He's definitely one of our most popular trainers. Unfortunately, he's completely booked right now. His schedule is packed for the next 2 months." 2 months? I tried to look disappointed rather than suspicious. "Wow, he must be really good." "The best. He specializes in one-on-one sessions, really personalized attention. A lot of his clients have been with him for years." "That's dedication," I said. "I imagine his wife must be proud of his success." "Monica?" "Oh yeah, she's super supportive. She comes in sometimes to work out herself. Actually, she's here now if you want to meet her. She's over by the free weights." My heart started beating faster, but I managed to keep my voice casual. "That would be great." The receptionist pointed toward a section of the gym where serious-looking people were lifting serious-looking weights. I spotted Monica immediately. She was the woman from Eric's Instagram photo, but in person, she looked even more formidable. She was doing deadlifts with perfect form and an expression of intense concentration. I approached carefully, waiting for her to finish her set before speaking. "Monica?" She looked up, and I was struck by how sharp her eyes were. This was not a woman who missed details. "Do I know you?" she asked, setting down her weights. "I'm Jack Morrison," I said, extending my hand. "I was just talking to the front desk about possibly joining the gym. They mentioned your husband Eric is one of the top trainers here." She shook my hand with a grip that suggested she could probably bench press me if necessary. "He is? Very popular with his clients?" There was something in the way she said popular that made my security-trained instincts prick up. Not pride, exactly. More like resignation, or maybe carefully controlled irritation. "I'm sure," I said. "The receptionist mentioned he's booked solid for the next 2 months. That's impressive." "Very impressive," Monica agreed, and this time there was definitely an edge to her voice. Especially considering how many evening and weekend sessions he's been taking on lately. We looked at each other for a moment, and I had the distinct feeling we were having two conversations. The polite surface conversation about gym memberships and successful trainers, and a deeper conversation about things we weren't quite ready to say out loud. "Well," I said finally, "I should let you get back to your workout. Maybe I'll look into some of the other trainers." "That might be wise," Monica said. "Eric's schedule is very demanding these days." I was halfway to my car when my phone buzzed with a text from Nadia. "Working late tonight. Don't wait up." I stared at the message, remembering Monica's comment about Eric's evening sessions, and felt something shift inside me. The doubt I'd been carrying for weeks crystallized into something harder and more focused. I wasn't paranoid. I wasn't overthinking things. My wife was having an affair with her personal trainer, and his wife knew it too. The only question now was what I was going to do about it. That evening, I did something I hadn't done in 15 years of marriage. I went through my wife's things. Not randomly, not frantically, but with the systematic approach I used when conducting security assessments for clients. If Nadia was having an affair, there would be evidence, and I was going to find it. I started with the obvious places. Her dresser drawers revealed nothing more suspicious than some expensive workout clothes I didn't remember her buying. Her closet contained the usual collection of business attire and casual clothes, though I noticed several new outfits that seemed designed more for impressing someone than for comfort. The real treasure trove was her home office. Nadia kept meticulous records of everything: receipts, appointment cards, even printed emails that most people would just delete. It was a habit that had served her well in her marketing career, but now it was about to serve my investigation even better. I found the gym receipts first. Premium Fitness charged premium prices, apparently, and Nadia had been paying for services I didn't even know existed. Personal training sessions, nutritional consultations, something called lifestyle coaching, and multiple charges for what appeared to be private facility usage after normal business hours. The numbers were staggering. In the past 3 months alone, Nadia had spent more on gym services than we typically spent on groceries. And according to the receipts, most of these charges were for sessions with E. Daniels. But it was the appointment cards that really caught my attention. Small white cards with handwritten dates and times, most of them for evening appointments well after the gym's normal operating hours. The handwriting was masculine, confident, and included little notes like "Great progress today" and "Looking forward to our next session." I photographed everything with my phone, being careful to put each item back exactly where I'd found it. If this situation was heading where I thought it was heading, I was going to need documentation. My phone rang, interrupting my investigation. Jake's number appeared on the screen. "Hey, buddy, what's up?" "Dad, I'm at Tommy's house working on a science project. Can I stay for dinner? His mom already said it's okay." "Sure thing. I'll pick you up around 8. "Thanks. Is Mom home yet?" I glanced at the clock. It was almost 7, and Nadia's car wasn't in the driveway. "Not yet. She's working late again." "She's been working late a lot lately," Jake observed with the matter-of-fact tone that teenagers use when they are stating the obvious. "Yeah, she has." After Jake hung up, I sat in Nadia's office chair, surrounded by the quiet evidence of her deception, and tried to figure out my next move. The room smelled faintly of her perfume, something floral, expensive, and just artificial enough to feel out of place in the chaos she'd left behind. Her desk was a shrine to control. Everything neatly arranged, each pen parallel to the next, her planner perfectly centered beside her laptop. It was the same planner that held the false appointments and client dinners she used to camouflage her affair. The smart thing would be to confront her directly, lay out what I'd found, and demand an explanation. That's what rational people did. Air it out, have the fight, see where the pieces landed. But I knew Nadia too well. A confrontation would only trigger another performance. Wide eyes, trembling voice, the practiced outrage of a woman falsely accused. She'd twist the truth until I was the villain for snooping, and she'd walk away untouched, leaving me holding the guilt she created. No, I decided, that approach would just lead to denials, excuses, and a more carefully hidden affair. What she feared wasn't exposure, it was losing control. Instead, I decided to call Monica. Her name had been sitting in the back of my mind ever since our brief conversation at the gym, like an unopened letter I couldn't stop thinking about. She'd seemed guarded, but sharp, a woman who'd already pieced together more than she was willing to admit in public. I'd gotten her number from the gym's website, buried in the emergency contact list for Eric's clients. It wasn't exactly above board, but I was long past worrying about etiquette. It was a long shot, but something about the way she'd looked at me when I mentioned Nadia's name, half pity, half recognition, made me think she might be more willing to talk than she'd let on. I dialed her number and listened to the soft, rhythmic buzz of the line. She answered on the second ring. "Hello?" "Monica, this is Jack Morrison. We met at the gym earlier today." There was a pause long enough for me to imagine her weighing her response. When she spoke again, her tone was cautious, but not cold. "I remember. What can I do for you?" "I was wondering if we could talk," I said carefully. "About our spouses?" Another pause, this one deeper, heavier. In that silence, I could almost hear the sound of her guard dropping just a little. "I think that might be a very good idea," she said at last. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop downtown, neutral ground where neither of us could retreat too easily into denial. I picked the place deliberately. Small, quiet, tucked between an art gallery and a tailor's shop. The kind of cafe where conversations stayed private because nobody cared enough to listen. I arrived first and claimed a corner table that faced the door. The smell of espresso mixed with the faint sweetness of baked pastries, but I barely noticed. My mind kept circling the same thought. How many people sitting here right now were doing the same thing? Discovering the truth about someone they loved. Monica arrived 10 minutes later. She looked like she hadn't slept much, her hair tied back in a loose bun, her expression composed but tired. There was something dignified about her, even in that weariness. a quiet acceptance of the role she'd been forced to play. She spotted me instantly and crossed the room with the calm of someone who'd rehearsed this moment in her head. "So," she said, sliding into the chair across from me, "your wife is one of Eric's special clients." It wasn't a question, and I didn't treat it like one. "How long have you known?" "Officially," she said, fingers tightening around her coffee cup. "About 2 weeks. Unofficially, I've been suspicious for months." Her eyes were sharp, but there was fatigue behind them, the kind of exhaustion that comes from pretending not to see what's right in front of you. "Eric's always been popular with his female clients," she went on, "but this is different. He's never been this secretive before." "What changed 2 weeks ago?" I asked. Monica gave a hollow laugh, the kind that had lost its sense of humor somewhere along the way. "I found a credit card statement, hotel rooms, expensive dinners, flowers, all the classics." She stared into her cup for a moment before adding, "When I confronted him, he said it was for a surprise anniversary party he was planning." I raised an eyebrow. "Our anniversary isn't until March," she said flatly. "Did you believe him?" "For about 30 seconds, she said, managing a small smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Then I started paying closer attention to his schedule, his phone calls, his general behavior. The signs are all there once you know what to look for." I nodded slowly, feeling a bitter sense of recognition. Late-night sessions, mysterious text messages, emotional distance at home? She met my eyes and nodded. "It's amazing how similar the patterns always are. Different people, same lies." "Exactly. Plus, he's been working out more, buying new clothes, using cologne I've never smelled before. Classic cheating husband behavior." We sat in silence for a moment, two people who'd been forced into a club nobody wants to join. Finally, Monica spoke again. "What do you want to do about it?" It was a good question. The traditional options were limited. Confront them and hope for the best, hire a private investigator to gather more evidence, or consult a lawyer about divorce proceedings. But none of those approaches felt quite right to me. "I want them to face consequences," I said slowly. "Real consequences, not just a tearful confession and a promise to do better." Monica's eyes sharpened with interest. "What kind of consequences?" "The kind that make them understand exactly how much damage they've caused. The kind that ensure this doesn't just blow over in a few weeks." "That sounds like you're talking about revenge." "Maybe I am." Monica leaned back in her chair, studying me with the intensity of someone trying to solve a complex puzzle. "Tell me more about what you have in mind." I outlined my thoughts, still rough and unformed, but gaining clarity as I spoke. The idea wasn't to destroy them exactly, but to expose them in a way that would have lasting consequences, to make sure they face the social, professional, and personal costs of their choices. "Eric's built his reputation on being trustworthy and professional," I said. "His client base is built on the idea that he provides fitness training, not other services. If that reputation were damaged, it would affect his career." "And your wife works in marketing," Monica added. "Her professional success depends on her ability to manage public image and maintain client relationships. If her personal life became a public scandal, it would affect her career too." We were talking around the edges of something bigger, something that felt both exciting and terrifying. Monica finished her coffee and leaned forward. "Jack, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be honest. Are you looking for justice, or are you looking for revenge?" I thought about it for a long moment. "What's the difference?" "Justice is about making things right. Revenge is about making them hurt." "Then I guess I'm looking for both." Monica smiled for the first time since we'd sat down. "Good, because I think I know how we can get it." Over the next week, Monica and I developed what we came to call Operation Exposure. The name was Pete's suggestion. He'd insisted on being included once I told him about my meeting with Monica, claiming that any plan involving revenge against cheating spouses required at least one voice of reason to keep things from going completely off the rails. "Not that I'm opposed to a little creative justice," Pete had said when the three of us met at my office after hours. "I just want to make sure we don't do anything that lands us in legal trouble." Monica had brought files, printed emails, credit card statements, photographs, and a timeline of Eric's suspicious behavior that was so detailed it could have been used as evidence in a court case. She'd been documenting everything for weeks, apparently, just waiting for the right moment to act. "The key is to make sure everything we do is legal and public," I explained, spreading out our materials on the conference table. "We're not planting evidence or making anything up. We're just arranging for the truth to come out in the most impactful way possible. And the most embarrassing way possible," Monica added with a grin that was slightly terrifying. Our plan had 3 phases, each designed to escalate the pressure and ensure maximum exposure. Phase 1 involved documenting the affair with irrefutable evidence. Phase 2 would expose Eric's unprofessional behavior to his employer and clients. Phase 3 was still being refined, but it involved a very public confrontation that would ensure the entire community knew exactly what kind of people they were dealing with. The beauty of this approach, Pete observed, is that we're not actually doing anything to them. We're just making sure other people know what they've already done. Phase 1 began immediately. Monica had already installed tracking software on Eric's phone, perfectly legal since they were married and shared a phone plan. The software allowed her to monitor his text messages, call logs, and location data in real time. He thinks I'm too trusting to check up on him, Monica explained. He's about to learn how wrong he is. Meanwhile, I started paying much closer attention to Nadia's patterns. Her gym bag, which she'd previously packed haphazardly, now contained items that seemed more suited to romantic encounters than workout sessions: expensive lingerie, perfume, and makeup for touching up after exercise. I also began documenting her lies. Every late meeting and extended training session went into a spreadsheet, cross-referenced with her actual location data from our shared family phone plan. The pattern that emerged was damning. Nadia was spending 2 to 3 hours at locations that weren't the gym, weren't her office, and weren't anywhere she'd claimed to be. "Look at this," I told Pete and Monica during one of our evening strategy sessions. Last Tuesday, she said she was having dinner with clients, but according to her phone, she spent 3 hours at the Marriott downtown. Same hotel where Eric's been charging room service meals, Monica noted, consulting her own files. What a coincidence. The evidence was piling up faster than we could organize it. Text messages between Nadia and Eric that were definitely not about fitness training. Credit card charges for expensive restaurants on nights when Nadia claimed to be working late. Hotel receipts that corresponded exactly with Nadia's mysterious absences. But the smoking gun came from an unexpected source: Jake. My son had been spending more time at home lately, hovering around the edges of my routines the way kids do when they can feel something is wrong but can't quite put it into words. Partly it was because Nadia was never around anymore. Her schedule had become a fog of late meetings and client dinners that never lined up with the smell of perfume she brought home. But partly it was because Jake seemed to sense the tension that had settled into our house like humidity before a storm. He'd stopped asking to sleep over at friends' houses. He kept his phone volume off, as if loud noises might shatter whatever fragile peace we were still pretending to have. One evening, I was in my home office reviewing the evidence files: bank statements, printouts, photographs, the digital equivalent of a bleeding wound laid out on paper, when I heard a soft knock at the door. The desk lamp cast a narrow cone of light across the clutter, highlighting every damning detail. "Dad, can I ask you something?" His voice was hesitant, the kind of careful tone that told me he'd been rehearsing the question before saying it out loud. "Of course, buddy," I said, swiveling my chair to face him. "What's on your mind?" Jake lingered in the doorway, hands buried in his hoodie pocket, rocking on the balls of his feet. He looked older than 14 in that moment, and somehow younger at the same time, caught between wanting to protect me and needing to be protected. "I think Mom might be lying about where she goes." The words hit harder than I expected. My pulse jumped, but I forced my voice to stay even. "What makes you think that?" He glanced toward the floor, scuffing it lightly with his sneaker. "Yesterday, she said she was going to a work meeting, but I saw her at the mall when Tommy's mom was driving us to GameStop. She was with some guy I've never seen before." He swallowed hard, then added, "They were holding hands." It felt like someone had dropped a weight onto my chest. My throat tightened, but I managed to keep my tone steady. "Are you sure it was Mom?" Jake nodded immediately. "Positive. She was wearing that blue dress she bought last month. You know, the one she said was for special occasions." He hesitated, then dropped his voice to a near whisper. "And Dad. They were kissing." The world seemed to narrow to a pinpoint. For a long second, I couldn't hear anything but the dull thud of my heartbeat. I'd already seen the truth in data, text logs, receipts, GPS records, but hearing it from my son, seeing the confusion in his eyes, was something else entirely. Monica's investigation had prepared me for betrayal. It hadn't prepared me for this. "Jake," I said finally, my voice quieter now, gentler, "I need you to know that whatever's going on between your mom and me, it's not your fault. None of this is on you. And it doesn't change how much we both love you." He nodded, but his shoulders hunched slightly, the way they do when a kid doesn't believe something but wants to. "Are you guys getting divorced?" The question landed like a knife twist, direct, unflinching, the kind only a teenager can ask because they don't yet know how to soften the truth. I took a slow breath. I don't know yet, buddy, but whatever happens, we'll figure it out together, okay? Jake's chin dipped in a small nod, but his expression didn't ease. His eyes darted toward the papers spread across my desk. The printed statements, the sticky notes, the timeline sketches. He wasn't stupid. He could connect dots. Can I help? He asked. I blinked. Help with what? He shifted his weight from one foot to the other. With whatever you're planning. I tried to smile, but it came out faint and crooked. What makes you think I'm planning anything? Jake's mouth quirked slightly, half a grin, half a challenge. You've been staying up late, he said, ticking the points off on his fingers. Making phone calls. Meeting with people I don't know. Plus, you've been way too calm about Mom being gone all the time. The old dad would have been asking a lot more questions by now. Smart kid. Too smart, maybe. He had inherited my curiosity and his mother's intuition, a dangerous combination when the truth was something no one should have to understand at 14. I looked at my son, really looked at him, and realized he wasn't the little boy I'd been trying to protect. He was 14, old enough to understand that his family was falling apart, and smart enough to know that I was doing something about it. Okay, I said, but if I tell you what's going on, you have to promise me you'll stay out of it. This is adult business, and I don't want you getting hurt. I promise. I gave him the basic outline. Mom was having an affair, I was working with Eric's wife to expose them, and we were planning to make sure there were real consequences for their actions. Jake listened without interrupting, occasionally nodding like he was filing away information for future reference. So you're not just going to forgive her and pretend it didn't happen? He asked when I finished. No, I'm not. Good, Jake said with a vehemence that surprised me. She's been lying to both of us. She deserves whatever happens. That night, after Jake went to bed, I called Monica with an update on our evidence gathering. We now had documentation of the affair from multiple sources, including an eyewitness account from my own son. How are you holding up? Monica asked. This can't be easy. I'm angry, I admitted. Angrier than I've ever been in my life. But I'm also focused. Every piece of evidence we gather, every lie we document, it all brings us closer to making them pay for what they've done. And Phase 2? Phase 2 starts tomorrow. It's time to let Eric's employer know exactly what kind of services he's been providing to his clients. Monica's laugh was sharp and satisfied. I can't wait. Phase 2 of Operation Exposure began on a Wednesday morning, and when I walked into Premium Fitness, carrying a manila folder full of evidence and wearing my most professional expression. I'd called ahead to request a meeting with the general manager, claiming I had concerns about one of their trainers that needed to be addressed immediately. The general manager turned out to be a woman named Susan Martinez, probably in her 40s, with a kind of no-nonsense demeanor that suggested she'd dealt with her share of difficult situations. Her office was small but organized, with motivational posters on the walls and a desk covered with the kind of paperwork that comes with running a business. Mr. Morrison, she said, gesturing for me to take a seat. You mentioned you had concerns about one of our trainers? Eric Daniels, I said, opening my folder. I have reason to believe he's been engaging in inappropriate relationships with his clients. Susan's expression immediately became more serious. That's a very serious accusation. What evidence do you have? I laid out everything methodically. The hotel receipts, the after-hours facility usage, the text messages between Eric and multiple female clients that were clearly personal rather than professional. Susan examined each document carefully, occasionally asking questions about how I'd obtained the information. This is your wife? She asked, pointing to one of the credit card statements. Yes. And before you ask, I obtained these documents legally as part of investigating suspicious charges on our joint accounts. Susan nodded and continued reviewing the evidence. When she finished, she leaned back in her chair and sighed. Mr. Morrison, I appreciate you bringing this to my attention. This kind of behavior is completely unacceptable and violates multiple company policies. I'll need to conduct a formal investigation, but based on what you've shown me, I think it's safe to say Mr. Daniels' employment here will be terminated. What about his current clients? They'll be reassigned to other trainers, and I'll need to review all of his after-hours facility usage to determine if there have been any policy violations there as well. I left the gym feeling satisfied, but not finished. Destroying Eric's career was just the beginning. I wanted him to understand the full scope of what he'd lost, and I wanted everyone in their social circle to know exactly what kind of people they were dealing with. That evening, Monica and I met at Pete's office to plan Phase 3. Pete had been researching the legal implications of our various revenge fantasies, and he'd come up with some creative ideas that walked right up to the line without crossing it. The key is public exposure, Pete explained, pulling up a presentation on his laptop. We want maximum embarrassment with minimum legal risk. Define maximum embarrassment, Monica said with the kind of smile that suggested she had some ideas of her own. Social media exposure, public confrontation, and community notification, Pete said. We make sure everyone in their social and professional circles knows exactly what they've done. I like it, I said. What did you have in mind? Pete clicked to the next slide, which showed a timeline of events leading up to what he'd labeled the grand finale. First, we create social media accounts dedicated to documenting the affair. Not fake accounts, real accounts with real evidence. We post the hotel receipts, the text messages, the timeline of lies. We tag all their friends, family members, and professional contacts. That seems harsh, Monica said, but she was still smiling. It gets better, Pete continued. Next, we organize a public confrontation, somewhere they can't escape, somewhere they'll be forced to face the consequences of their actions in front of people they care about. Like where? The gym's annual charity fundraiser. It's next Saturday night, black tie event. All the members will be there along with local business leaders and community figures. Eric's supposed to be one of the featured speakers. I felt a surge of excitement. Perfect. Public, prestigious, and completely inescapable. But we don't just show up and make a scene, Pete warned. We do this smart. We document everything, we stay calm and professional, and we let the evidence speak for itself. Monica pulled out her phone and started typing. I can get us tickets to the fundraiser. As Eric's wife, I'm automatically invited, and I can bring guests. What about Nadia? I asked. She'll be expecting me to attend with her. Let her expect it, Pete said, right up until the moment you walk in with Monica instead. We spent the next hour refining the details. Monica would gather final pieces of evidence, more text messages, more credit card statements, more documentation of Eric's lies and unprofessional behavior. I would prepare a presentation that laid out the entire affair timeline in clear, undeniable terms. Pete would handle the technical aspects, creating the social media accounts, preparing the documentation for public release, and making sure everything was legally bulletproof. There's one more thing, Monica said as we were wrapping up. I want to make sure we're all clear about what we're trying to accomplish here. This isn't just about revenge, it's about consequences. They made choices, and those choices should have real, lasting effects. Agreed, I said. They destroyed 2 marriages and betrayed their families. They should face the social and professional consequences of those actions. And, Pete added, they should understand that their actions affected more people than just themselves. Your son, Monica's family, your friends and colleagues, everyone who trusted them and believed in them. That night, I went home to find Nadia getting ready for another late training session. She was wearing a dress that definitely wasn't appropriate for the gym, and she'd spent more time on her makeup than she usually did for actual special occasions. Working late again? I asked, leaning against the bathroom doorframe. Eric wants to go over some new techniques, she said without meeting my eyes. We might grab dinner afterward to discuss my long-term fitness goals. Sounds intensive. It is, but it's worth it. I'm seeing results I never thought possible. I almost laughed at the double meaning, but I managed to keep my expression neutral. I'm sure you are. After she left, I sat in my home office and reviewed our plans for the fundraiser. In 3 days, Nadia and Eric would be forced to face the consequences of their choices in the most public way possible. They'd lose their reputations, their careers, and their standing in the community. But more importantly, they'd understand that their actions had consequences, that the people they'd betrayed weren't going to quietly disappear and let them continue their perfect little affair without any real cost. My phone buzzed with a text from Monica. Final evidence package ready. This is going to be spectacular. I smiled and typed back, they have no idea what's coming. And they didn't. In 3 days, Nadia and Eric would learn that some betrayals come with a price that's higher than they ever imagined. They'd discover that the people they'd underestimated, the boring husband, the trusting wife, were capable of consequences they'd never seen coming. I was looking forward to the lesson. Saturday arrived with the kind of crisp autumn weather that made Boston look like a postcard. The premium fitness charity fundraiser was being held at the Fairmont Copley Plaza, one of the city's most prestigious hotels, and the guest list included everyone who mattered in the local fitness and business communities. I spent the morning making final preparations with Monica and Pete. We'd rehearsed our presentation multiple times, prepared backup copies of all our evidence, and even practiced our entrance to ensure maximum impact. Remember, Pete said as we reviewed the timeline one last time, we stay calm, we stick to the facts, and we let the evidence do the talking. No dramatic outbursts, no personal attacks. We're just concerned community members sharing important information. Monica was dressed in a stunning black evening gown that made her look like she belonged at a movie premiere. I still can't believe Eric thinks I don't know anything, He actually asked me to wish him luck with his speech tonight. What did you tell him? That I hoped he got exactly what he deserved. I told Nadia I would meet her at the fundraiser, claiming I had work commitments that would keep me busy until the last minute. She'd seemed relieved, probably because it gave her more time to coordinate her arrival with Eric. The Fairmont's ballroom was decorated in Premium Fitness's corporate colors, black, gold, and white, with elegant table settings and a stage where Eric would presumably deliver his speech about the importance of fitness and healthy relationships. The irony wasn't lost on me. Monica and I made our entrance at exactly 8 o'clock, just as the cocktail hour was reaching its peak. I spotted Nadia immediately. She was standing near the bar with Eric, both of them looking like the picture of success and happiness. They were maintaining a careful distance in public, but I could see the subtle touches, the meaningful looks, the body language of two people who were intimately connected. "There they are," Monica murmured, following my gaze. "Don't they look perfect together?" "They're about to look a lot less perfect." We worked the room systematically, greeting other guests and making casual conversation while positioning ourselves for the main event. I recognized several of Nadia's colleagues from her marketing firm, some of Eric's clients from the gym, and various local business leaders who'd come to support the charity. At 8:30, the hotel's event coordinator began encouraging guests to take their seats for dinner and the evening's program. Eric was scheduled to speak at 9 o'clock, right after the main course was served. Monica and I had arranged to sit at a table near the front, close enough to the stage to ensure everyone would see us clearly. As the lights dimmed and the program began, I felt a familiar surge of adrenaline, the same feeling I got when executing a complex security installation or solving a particularly challenging technical problem. The charity's president gave a brief welcome speech, thanking everyone for their support and introducing the evening's featured speaker. "Eric Daniels has been one of our most dedicated trainers for the past 5 years," she said. "His commitment to helping clients achieve their fitness goals is matched only by his dedication to his family and community." I glanced at Monica, who was maintaining a perfect poker face despite what must have been tremendous internal pressure. In a few minutes, everyone in this room would understand just how dedicated Eric really was. Eric took the stage looking confident and polished in his tuxedo. He began his speech with some jokes about the challenges of maintaining fitness routines during the holiday season, then transitioned into a more serious discussion about the importance of trust between trainers and clients. "The relationship between a trainer and client is built on trust," he said, his voice carrying clearly through the ballroom's sound system. "Clients trust us with their health, their goals, and sometimes their deepest insecurities. That trust is sacred, and it should never be violated." The audience nodded appreciatively, completely unaware of the irony. I checked my watch. It was time. I stood up slowly, ensuring I had everyone's attention, then began walking toward the stage. Monica followed a few seconds later, carrying the folder of evidence we'd prepared. "Excuse me," I said, my voice loud enough to carry throughout the ballroom. "I think there's something everyone should know about the speaker." Eric stopped mid-sentence, his face showing confusion and then growing alarm as he recognized me. Nadia, sitting at a table near the back, looked like she'd seen a ghost. "Sir, this is a private event," the charity president said, moving toward me with obvious concern. "I know," I replied calmly. "My name is Jack Morrison. My wife Nadia is here tonight, and I have some information about Mr. Daniels that I think the community should hear." The ballroom had gone completely quiet. Every eye was on me, and I could feel the weight of the moment. This was it, the culmination of weeks of planning, investigation, and preparation. Monica joined me at the front of the room, opening the evidence folder with theatrical precision. "My name is Monica Daniels," she announced, "Eric's wife, and we're here to share some information about the kind of trust Eric has been building with his clients." What followed was 15 minutes of methodical, devastating exposure. We presented the evidence chronologically, starting with the suspicious charges and escalating through the hotel receipts, text messages, and documented lies. Monica read selected text messages aloud, her voice steady and clear as she shared intimate communications between Eric and multiple clients, including my wife. The audience's reaction evolved from confusion to shock to outrage. I could see people at Nadia's table turning to stare at her, their expressions ranging from sympathy to disgust. Eric had gone pale and was gripping the podium like it was the only thing keeping him upright. "The point," I said as we reached the conclusion of our presentation, "is not to embarrass anyone unnecessarily. The point is that actions have consequences, and the community deserves to know when people in positions of trust violate that trust." "This is outrageous," Eric finally managed to say. "These accusations are completely false." Monica smiled and pulled out her phone. "Would you like me to play the voicemail you left for my husband's wife yesterday? The one where you told her you loved her and couldn't wait to leave your boring spouse? Eric's face went from pale to green. In the audience, I could see people pulling out their phones, some recording the confrontation, others probably posting updates to social media in real time. "Ladies and gentlemen," the charity president said, clearly trying to regain control of the situation, "I think we should—" "We're finished," I interrupted politely. "We just wanted to make sure everyone had accurate information about the people they're supporting tonight." Monica and I walked out of the ballroom with as much dignity as we could manage, leaving behind a room full of shocked guests, a humiliated trainer, and a wife who would never be able to show her face in that social circle again. In the hotel lobby, Pete was waiting with champagne and the biggest grin I'd ever seen. "How did it go?" he asked, though our expressions probably told him everything he needed to know. "Perfect," Monica said. "Absolutely perfect." My phone was already buzzing with text messages and missed calls. Nadia, Eric, various mutual friends who'd been at the fundraiser, and even some people I didn't recognize who'd apparently gotten my number from someone else. I turned off the phone without reading any of the messages. "What now?" Pete asked. "Now we go home," I said. "The consequences will take care of themselves." And they did. By Monday morning, Eric had been terminated from Premium Fitness and was facing a lawsuit from the gym's insurance company. Nadia's marketing firm had received multiple calls from clients who'd seen social media posts about the fundraiser incident, and her professional reputation was in ruins. More importantly, both of them understood that their actions had cost them everything they'd worked to build. Their reputations, their careers, their standing in the community, all of it was gone, replaced by the knowledge that everyone they knew was aware of exactly what kind of people they really were. The divorce proceedings were swift and decisive. Nadia moved out within a week, and Jake chose to stay with me full-time. Monica filed for divorce the same day I did, and we became friends united by the shared experience of rebuilding our lives after betrayal. 6 months later, I was sitting in my office when Pete knocked on the door. "There's someone here to see you," he said with a mysterious smile. Monica walked in, looking happier and more relaxed than I'd ever seen her. "I wanted to thank you," she said, "for everything." "Thank me for what?" "For showing me that sometimes the best revenge is just making sure people face the real consequences of their choices." I smiled, thinking about everything we'd been through. "What are you doing now?" "I'm opening my own fitness studio, focusing on honest training, real results, and actual professional relationships." She paused. "I was wondering if you'd be interested in handling my security systems." "I'd be honored." As Monica left, I realized that our revenge had accomplished something I hadn't expected. It had given us both the chance to build something better from the wreckage of our old lives. Sometimes, the best lesson you can teach someone is that actions have consequences. And sometimes, those consequences lead to something better than what you had before. The trainer's lesson was complete.